Well, we have Josh Miszk joining us now. He's VP of Investments at Advisor Investment Management. Hi, Josh.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good. Nice to have you with us. We're going to talk about saving for retirement and investing and whether or not that's something that, our kids should be looking at now. But what did you think when you heard that story earlier this week about the kids doing so poorly in math? Because that really comes to what you're all about, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think when you look at that and you think the whole math thing, like you brought up, it's really important because you look at kids now coming out of school and going into school and they're leaving it with just laden with debt, or debt's a lot easier to obtain nowadays. And the lifestyles are very expensive, and people will naturally go into debt a lot quicker nowadays than I think that they used to in the past. And understanding that interest is compounding, that you're getting deeper and deeper if you're not paying it off, and the importance of paying off higher interest loans or Visa cards or whatever is very important. And if you don't understand that, you don't have that fundamental value there to pay that off, you can dig yourself into a deep hole pretty quickly.
Yeah, you could be heading down the wrong road if you don't know how to do the math. It's quite simple.
Yeah. So no,
yeah, when you talk about
very important.
Yeah, I was just going to say, when you talk about getting into debt, we see that so many university students come out with a huge debt and then trying to pay it off if they haven't got, if they come out of school with a degree and yet don't, are unable to get a good job in the field that they want to, that's a rude awakening for them. So when we talk about, then we move on to talking about trying to invest. If you don't have a job that can pay all your bills, how do you possibly invest? Even though you probably should be because of compounding interest and all of that. If you start young, we know that at the other end, you're going to have more money to live on.
But a lot of young people say, I just can't afford to do it. I'm not making that much money.
Yeah, what is your answer to that?
Yeah, it's tough, and I think with the debt and with the lower incomes when you're coming out of school, it's really tough, and you have to learn those lessons early about how to budget for yourself, how to control costs, and how to start putting something away to save, as small as it is to start. Any little bit helps, and I think it's empowering to learn how to take control of your financial situation, just like when you're in school and you're learning how to cook for the first time for yourself, and learning how to budget, it's an important life skill, and yeah, it's tough, and it's you have to get the right advice as well sometimes when you're investing when you're young. And traditionally it's been very tough to get the proper kind of advice when you don't have $100,000 to start with. But nowadays we're seeing more online options like Advisor, like what we do, that provide custom advice, and there's no minimum to get started. So you can start the ball rolling, you can start to get pointed on the right path with whatever you have.
But what a lot of young people say, I got lots of time. I'm 21. Why do I have to worry about retirement now? I got forever to worry about this. Yeah,
and it's so important to get started early. An additional 5 years of contributions is exponential. There's the math coming into it again. It's exponential down the road. It's that compounding, and it's I encourage people to go and find one of those financial calculators online and do a 30-year compounding at whatever contributions a year of $5,000 or whatever, and then add an extra 5 years and do it for 35, and the difference is substantial. So the earlier you can get started, the better.
Okay, so give us an example. Give us real numbers on that. That if you're talking to your kids and you're saying, okay, don't do what I did, which is wait until later on and you become more established and then you start putting money in. If you actually started earlier and invested X amount, you're going to end up with this.
You're going to make them do math at 7:30 in the morning? Come on, Carol.
That's his job.
But it's 7:30 in the morning.
So give us some real numbers here, Josh.
Okay, well, so if you put $5,000 away, I've got a calculator here I just pulled up. If you put $5,000 away and it's growing at 7% a year, say 6% after fees and everything, you're going to have $286,000 in 25 years. For $5,000 a year, it's a lot of money, and if you were to do it for let's go 30 years. It's $412,000. You know, it's an extra, $130,000 or so for the extra 5 years that you're doing that. It's significant, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Starting at what age?
I think as early as you can. You know, I think once you're out of school, that's the time to really start thinking about it. You know, I think the big change in the job situation nowadays is you're not sitting with a company for 30 years. You know, people are much more flexible now. They change jobs frequently. They change companies frequently. And you can't necessarily rely on a company pension to fund your retirement down the road because you're hopping around. So the more self-reliant you can be, the more you can get started with your own. You know, there's a lot of good values there where you can start contributing on a regular basis. You pay yourself first, and you know that's a good habit to get into. You get started early, and you find something that's low cost. You know, that's a big point in itself. Is, you know, traditionally there were fewer options in Canada, and that low competition environment I think drew banks and advisors to push fees to the point where Canada has the highest fees of any developed country. Like our mutual funds here are about 3 times the cost of what they are in the U.S. And
really?
And now, yeah.
Well, that's a rip-off, isn't it?
A rip-off. It really is, and people don't realize that, you know. And that, if you were to save 1% over your lifetime, it's huge. You know, it's huge down the road. And now there's options that you can do it. You can, like I said, the online options. One, you can do it yourself nowadays, and but it's so important to look for something that you can save fees on, and at least understand the fees that you're paying. You know, it's 2.35% is the average in Canada for mutual funds. It's a lot of money, you know, every year that goes away, and that's money that's not compounding for you for your retirement down the road.
Right. Josh Miszk is on the line with us, VP of Investments and Advisor Investment Management. You said pay yourself first. I hear that all the time. Pay yourself first. Well, that's great, but if you have rent, you have overhead, you have groceries to pay, you can't possibly pay yourself first and put into investments if you've got these fixed bills. Those things really do need to be paid first.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, you know, and visa bills in particular would be your first go-to. But if you can, it's a great thing to do on your own. You know, at the very least, and what some companies do have are employee savings plans where the company will match what you put in, or they'll match half of what you put in. That's free money, you know, and if you're not participating in those types of programs, you're leaving money on the table. So those ones are great ones to participate in. And like I said, even if you can shell out $50 or whatever your number is on an ongoing basis, it's out of sight, out of mind. You learn how to budget after the fact, and your savings will grow. And it's your life, you know. It's your retirement. It's so important for you, and it's hard to think about that, especially for young people. It's hard to think, you know, when I'm 65 or you know when I'm retired. But it's very, very important to get started early, and I think it's important that kids get those lessons, you know, as early as possible.
Yeah, pay yourself first. You don't have to pay yourself a lot. Just a little something.
No, just a little bit goes a long way.
It's that simple.
Josh, where can people go to find out more? Do you have something online that can help young people through the process?
Yeah, you know, our website is advisor.ca. There's a lot of great websites out there. Just trying to think of the one. There's one called Get Smart About Money. It's the OSC operates that, and there's a lot of good little tidbits on there. I mean, it's not fun reading about finances ever, but there's a lot of really good, useful information on that website.
And it is kind of fun reaping the rewards of it, though, when you see a portfolio starting to grow, then you go, wow, I kind of like this. Josh, definitely. Thanks so much for joining us this Saturday morning. Good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Josh. Bye-bye.
Take care. And that's Josh Miszk, who's VP of Investments at Advisor Investment Management.